Tomorrow here. Let's wait for the panelists to get on. We're going to cover this debate. It's going to be me, Mike B, and Nagone 11. I sent them the link already. So while you're in here, 20 people in here, could y'all like the video among coming in? If you haven't read the description already, this is what the actual debate is going to be. It starts at 9 o'clock Eastern, obviously. So this is what we got going. We got the, it's going to be like this. We're going to be, there's going to be predictions for the debate, which is going to be starting now until, obviously the debate starts. It always starts a little bit late. We're going to be watching the debate, the actual moments of it. After the debate, we're going to be going over each question that was asked by Chris Wallace. And we're going to look at the answers by President Trump and former Vice President Biden. Then we're going to have an open panel discussion on the debate itself. So we're just waiting for the panelists to get in. Thanks for coming in, and get yourself comfortable, because these debates normally run 1.5 hours, maybe 2. There's normally not any commercial breaks during these actual debates. Maybe there are some, but this is what we're going to be able to do here. We're going to start doing this a lot for other things as well, because we are part of the political constituency ourselves, so that way we can see what's going on before it happens, so that way we can be able to put our inputs on the things that are happening here. So while we wait on our other people to get here, we're just going to sit here and chill out until they come. So make sure you get yourself something to drink, something to eat, so that way we can be able to have this debate go on. And if y'all could keep the chat down to a minimum, unless you're sighing and all this kind of stuff like we are. So that's what we're doing. Actually, Great Britain, like a lot of people don't cover these type of things, because you got to be confident about the issue and topic at hand before you actually just start running off with the mouth talking about these things. And a lot of people only go at it from an actual one issue type thing, but this thing has long range consequences. So you have to realize that you're not the president or vying to be president of one topic. You are the broad spectrum president of most people in the United States. So I keep up with this stuff a lot, obviously, because, you know, I do. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing what's going on. I didn't know what was going on politically for a while until I had to start looking at it like I looked at any other sport. And I had to pay attention to the things that were happening, irrespective of who I was in the actual conversation here. So we're waiting on them to come through. So I'm just gonna hang out till they get here, all right? Mike B, what's going on, man?
Yo, what's going on, MOT?
Nothing much, man. We're just waiting. What's going on, man? Wait, hold on a second. Shit, I got it. Was that echo on my side? Oh, that was probably his side. All right. So, yeah. So, then we're going to wait till the gong get here, and then we're going to start this up. So, Mike, the debate format is going to be our predictions before the actual debate start. Watching the debate, obviously. Responding to each question that was asked, grading their responses, both President Trump and former Vice President Biden. Then we have an open panel discussion afterwards for however long that lasts. That's pretty much going to be the debate. So thanks for coming through. So that way we can be able to have a lively discussion on what we're planning on hearing and during this debate. So
now, are you using iHeartRadio or?
No, I'm probably going to use the YouTube link that's on Google. Your camera's on. There you go. I just turned it off.
Okay. Yeah. All right, man. So what's up?
All right. So welcome everybody to the 2020 first presidential debate coverage. I'm the man of tomorrow. This is Mike B and Nagone 11. We're all the Black Brain Trust. We're here to give our predictions first. We're going to listen to the commentary. We're going to grade the responses of the people who are involved. And then we're going to have an open panel debate on this discussion. Welcome, fellas.
What's up, MOT? What's up, Mike?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over the predictions for the debate for each candidate. We're going to go with Mike B first for Donald Trump. Like, what do you predict is going to happen during this debate?
What I'm predicting is that Trump will try to stalk Biden in the same way he did Hillary. Now, this strategy may not work because it's a man versus, than what it was previously as a woman, but he will try to stalk Biden and try to intimidate him based on his track record. So he'll point out all of the flaws during the Obama administration and previously during the 90s as well. He'll definitely blame Libya on Biden, even though it probably doesn't have anything to do with him. But he'll definitely, all the failures of the Obama administration, he'll definitely tack it on to Biden.
Nagano 11?
Yeah. What I think is, Trump will try to go after Biden's record over 45 years, look at where he considers him to have been weak and have made some bad decisions over time, and maybe try to show that that Biden is not a good candidate for president because he has made some bad decisions in the past, like the Iraq War and so forth. So he'll attempt to catch him on that. What Biden is going to do is sit down and then talk about the better points of what they did. He will look to claim the economy that, quite frankly, that Trump has gotten passed to. He's gotten a good economy passed to him, and under his first crisis, everything fell to the floor. So he's going to try to continue to not let Trump get out of the corner, but Trump is to go onto the attack and to totally try to back Biden up and bring up other things, maybe even Hunter Biden as well, and some other stuff that he's going to try to keep the vice president on his heels, because the minute that Biden is able to turn it around and turn the coronavirus and his horrific rollout and terrible response to it, and tie him to all of that in the economy and its failures that we're going through right now, Trump is going to try to avoid that as much as possible, and that would be his smartest move, not to let himself get put in a corner and have Corona be tied to him, of which is his absolute weakness, and this is something to avoid. So he's going to have to go on the attack on Biden and try to show weaknesses in his record. Is his only real defense is going on a aggressive offense and try to Biden back.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, the way I see it, I think Donald Trump's going to come out swinging. I think he's going to come in talking point rich. I think he's going to come in with a whole bunch of style and kind of try to overwhelm this guy, because what he's trying to, he's not going to be trying to win any new audiences. He's just going to try to show up his base, because he pretty much gave up on coming to the middle or even trying to be reasonable at this point. And that's just where we're at with it. And I'm not sure how many debates it's going to be, because after tonight, things are going to change after the polling, obviously. And so he's going to decide whether or not that he's going to be able to do more debates or not, even though that there's normally 3 of them in total. So I really think he's going to come out swinging with his, like you said, his record. I think he's going to continue to minimize the COVID-19 situation, which is going to blow up in his face. And I don't know. I mean, if I was giving him advice, which he wasn't listening to, they already said all this week he wasn't even trying to prepare. So, yeah.
Well, that also shows he's going to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It just doesn't even show what's going to happen. So, it's just really hard for him in this position to kind of come out swinging, even though he is. So that's just where we are with him, man. That's my predictions for him.
I would have to agree with that. I think that's just really his only choice. He's got to go after Biden. He's got to make Biden look weak. He already called him Tired Joe and everything else like that. So what puts him at a little bit more of a disadvantage is the fact that since expectations might be low for Joe Biden, say, well, is his mind still there? Is he too old? Is he sickly? Is going to shore him up? If Biden comes in there and sounds cogent and competent and has decent, crisp responses and doesn't fall off the wagon and gives a relatively mediocre performance where he doesn't have to give a superior one, that's going to make him actually look that much better because of lower expectations of Biden, of which some would have Trump said, old tired Joe, and his mind is gone, and let's take a urine test to see if you're on some kind of drugs or something like that to try to keep you up. You're weakened, so he's going to try to play that, which is going to be difficult. Hitting him also on the conservative side. Joe Biden is more of a conservative Democrat. So it's going to be hard to really tie the Marxism and all this kind of stuff to him, which is going to be difficult, which is going to be a little bit more difficult for him to do. So he's going to have to totally try to attack him on his record and go on the offense, which makes it a little easier for Joe because, as you know, in boxing, a guy that swings wildly leaves a lot of openings where you can counter him pretty nicely when he swings and he misses. So that's kind of what I think Joe was. And Joe's a professional. He's a pro. He's been in the political arena as a professional for 50 years, whereas Trump is more of a media guy, media savvy for sure, but yet not a professional politician at the level that Joe has been. Now he's been president for 4 years, which is certainly gives him some some nice chops. But at the same time, Joe is not a newbie to this business. He's not new to this. He's true to this, if you will, and he's going to know how to counter and move around somebody like Donald Trump and basically tie his kind of long political record, but tie his record, which is Corona, to him and not let him get out of that corner, because Corona is the economy. Corona is what's actually given us a status or lesser status around the world, where we have basically 4 countries that basically enter. Everybody else has got us, on a quarantine list, and that's where we are with that. So it's a bit of an uphill job for the president. He definitely is running on a tough record, and I do believe we're going to see Joe Biden attempt to take some credit for the economy, of which he legitimately can have, because when they came into office in Obama, the economy was terrible. When they left, we came in, the unemployment was at about 17%. When they left, unemployment was about 6.5%, almost 7%, and going down. Trump got a hold of it, then things continued to go down from there. So Trump can certainly claim that, but Joe Biden has an actual claim to say, look what we passed off to you. It went well. And the minute you had a difficulty, a crisis in your presidency, things went south. Now, when we look at presidents who have not done well, who have not gotten elected over the last 108 years, I do believe, there have been 5 presidents who have not been reelected. And those presidents are Taft, they are Hoover, they are Carter, they are George Bush Sr., and the person would be Gerald Ford, who succeeded Nixon after his impeachment and lost a close one to Carter. One of the key things that kind of unite most of them, and I would just take Ford out of it, is that they were crises during these presidencies of these men, and it was either some larger military crisis, if you will, or the economy, and that's what has locked them all together. So that's what looks Trump, and that is why Biden has to consistently attack Trump on that piece, because that has been the weaknesses of all these other presidents who have lost.
All right. It looked like tentatively there are 3 debates that just showed it on the screen. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show C-SPAN 2. I just signed up for it, so I'm gonna show C-SPAN 2, where I see some of the people with millions of subscribers. They're also showing C-SPAN as well, so that's what I'm going to be able to show that from. The actual debate starts in 17 minutes and 40 seconds as of right now. All right, so. All right, Mike. So we got the Donald Trump portion out of the way. What do you think Joe Biden is going to do during this debate?
Well, Biden is going to come out swinging, especially on COVID, especially on the economy. He's definitely going to attack those 3 critical areas that are plaguing Trump right now. He'll also talk about his track record in terms of dealing with China. Biden has a very good track record of dealing with China, so which is in opposition to what Trump has. Trump has a trade war. The Biden administration under Obama did not have that. So he's going to attack those 3 areas primarily, and then he'll definitely go after the social justice piece in terms of what happened in Kenosha, what happened in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't see for him to do anything else other than this. Normally, if you are not an incumbent, the first debate is where you have to come out swinging. You absolutely have to be able to put lines in newspapers that can be article points, and especially on social media. So that I agree wholeheartedly with that. Nagone, what are your predictions for Joe Biden?
I would agree with Mike, and I would agree with what you said as well. That's exactly what he's going to do, and consistently, just move Trump right back into the corner and don't let him get out. Keep him like a boxer. When somebody tries to get out of the corner when he's hammering him, just grab him, throw him by the arm, throw him back into the corner, and start hitting him like Clubber Lang was when he was beating down Rocky Balboa in that first fight. So that's what you got to do: throw back in the corner, and keep hammering him, and don't let him out. Don't let him out on that. And I think that's what Mike said, what you broke down as well is where Joe has to come from. He's going to definitely come out swinging. And if Joe looks strong and doesn't come across looking weak, that's one of the issues that Trump actually was trying to bring up, that this guy was tired and beaten down and weather beaten and not capable. Comes out looking strong, it's going to look that much worse for Trump. So that's what I see happening. Or Joe trying to make happen at least. Yeah,
I mean, for Joe Biden, I think he's just going to go down a long list of litanies of drop balls by this guy. He's going to go through the disrespect of the military. He's going to go through the disrespect of actual Fauci, the doctor. I think he's going to go after him over his mindless tweeting. I think that, I understand why he does it, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to be more professional for this job. And I think you're going to go at him about the professionalism piece, because it would be very different if it was somebody else other than a former vice president that would be debating him on that. So that's kind of out of the way of what happens and why you kind of need professionals to actually be doing this kind of job. So I don't know. It's obviously we don't know what the questions are. We don't know what Chris Wallace is going to say, but this is currently where we are. So I like Chris Wallace, even though he does work for Fox News. He's a pretty competent debate moderator. For other people who do debates, see how this debate is moderated, so that way you can be able to do debates in the future. You can't just let people go wow all the way out of the way and just start doing whatever they want to because they want to score style points. You got to be able to, if this is the topic that's being debated, you got to debate the topic. And if you're not answering questions, which Chris Wallace is excellent at making sure both sides actually answer the question. That's what I like about Chris Wallace. You can't smoke nothing past Chris Wallace, not on the actual debate stage.
Well, I would totally agree with that. I'm doing that. A question is going to have to go more for style points than substance, because every time he says, well, we had the great economy and it was China's fault and all this, then all of a sudden Joe is going to be able to just put him right back in the corner and say, hold on a second, my man, buck stops here. You're the president. Can't blame other people. You're the leader here of this country. This is what you have to deal with. And Trump is going to have to go emotional, start screaming, PTSD screaming, start acting crazy. And in certain ways, avoid some of those questions and go for style. Literally go for style points to try to, he's going to appeal to his base. His base is already solid. The name of the game is he's going to try to appeal to tell people, hey, look, things were going good. I'll get this thing back on the road again. And I'm president. And just give me a little more time and we'll take care of this problem. That's where I think he's really going to come from. Now that is strong. That is a strong piece. That's how presidents tend to get over. Harry Truman certainly did that with his whistle stop, campaign tour across the country and asked people for, just for a little more time. Was that song? Give me just a little more time. Give me, and my love will surely grow. There you go. That's what's going to happen here. I think that's what the president's going to have to do. Beg for a little more time and say, listen, I'm in the seat. I mean, we've had some setbacks. I'm dealing with it now. We're going to come up with this vaccine and all this. He's going to come up with all kind of things to say how he's going to come back up here and handle this problem. Because the question is going to come up as to, well, since COVID is here, what, Joe, what would you do? And President Trump, what are you going to continue to do to relieve this? Because now looking for at a second wave, what's going to happen? He's going to be, touting this vaccine that's not going to, and all of this that's going to come up. And this is going to help to really turn this thing back. We can get the economy going again. And, I'm the economy guy, and just give me a little more time and I'll get this thing straightened out, of which is what an incumbent president can run on. And it's quite a bit more effective than folks might want to give it credit for, because people tend to like to stick with who they're with. And that's the tendency. So that's an advantage that the president will have. And that's certainly an angle that he can play. And I think he's going to play that pretty strong. And I think it's going to have some level of effect as well. MOT? Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I think MOT is pulling up the stream for the debate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that Biden, did it. Yeah, I think Biden did an interesting. I just been granted host privileges. I think Biden did a interesting job against Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan being the younger guy. It's interesting because Paul Ryan didn't come out swinging like everybody expected. Biden came in there dropping elbows on him like he was Hulk Hogan. So Biden going up against Trump is going to be a different set of conditions because they're in the same age bracket. So you can't run circles around him like he did Ryan. And so
Yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing how aggressive the dominance is on the floor, because when Trump was behind Hillary Clinton, people said that was kind of creepy. It was kind of stalkerish, but that strategy actually worked. Despite the fact that she was a woman and all of this, progressiveness of women advancement in American society, that, that patriarchal approach of stepping to a woman behind her back didn't phase Trump's performance on stage at all. And so Biden taking on the aggressive role against Paul Ryan and Trump taking on that same aggressive role against Hillary Clinton, this is something to pay attention to, because now you're talking about similar to how Mitt Romney and Obama took off their blazers on stage. They rolled their sleeves up. That's another key.
Yeah.
Obama and Mitt Romney both rolled up their sleeves as they took off their blazers to let everybody else know, body language wise, we can get it in right here. People thought there was going to be fisticuffs on stage, but that's the masculine aggression that you're going to see from both of Biden and Trump.
True, and you bring up a good point, because see, Trump is a bully. Trump is a bully. He's a bully type guy, and he likes to bully people around. And I certainly understand the mindset of the bully, and I enjoy going up against bullies myself. I understand the mindset of the bully. So does Joe Biden. He was a kid. If you looked at his story, he was a stutterer and everything else like that. He got bullied a lot as a kid. And if you get bullied a lot as a kid, you're not going to get bullied too much as an adult, especially when you get big and you're able to kind of handle yourself. So Trump is going to go up against somebody who's not going to be like the other sycophants around him and so forth, that are in his camp and so forth, that kowtow to him, that he can bully around. Now he's going up against another grown ass man who is going to not be subject to being bullied, and he's going to step back and throw shots pretty hard at this guy. And Trump is not really going to be used to that. He's not used to that with another guy who's going to be there ready to give as much as he's willing to take. So that's going to be difficult for Trump. He's not going to be used to that as much, because when he went through when he tore through the Republican primary with those weak betas, it was pretty laughable, even including Bush's son, and now he's not dealing with that same type of entity. Joe, you can gaffe or whatever, but Joe will step to you. He'll get up in your grill. So that's something that Trump is not going to be used to. He's going to deal with it, and that, I think, is going to be a bit unsettling for him as well. It's a very good point taken there, and I think that that's going to definitely play a role in this as well.
All right, can y'all see the screen with Chris Wiles up there?
Yeah,
Hold on.
I think we see it now.
All right, see it now. All right, so we're in the last 5 minutes, so get comfortable. We're going to be writing down the questions, so that way we can go after both responses by each person. So we're about to get started. So
that the new laptop you got there, MLT?
Yeah, I just bought another one. I got a GF65 thin MSI, but I just bought another the GS66 for like a better video card. Why ain't this shit playing sound?
Did you pause the video, MLT?
Did he pause it? I'm not sure. Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask you a question.
What's up?
Do you think the numbers that we see so far, the polling numbers that we see so far, do you feel that they're accurate, or do you feel that the numbers might be inflated?
I think the numbers are synthetic at this point. Trump was losing in the polls to Hillary in 2016, and yet he came out as the victor, even with less votes. And so I don't typically trust the polls anymore after 2016, because they're not indicative of anything anymore. We saw the same thing recently with Ed Markey versus Kennedy. And, Kennedy was supposed to be leading and blowing this guy out of the water. And it turns out that he got blown out of the water himself. And so the polls don't mean anything at this point anymore. It's a little bit synthetic.
I find it interesting because here in New York, they were saying that Kennedy was supposed to be beating Markey, but that Markey was ahead. So that looked like the Kennedys who've never lost. It was looking likely that this Kennedy was going to lose. So it was very interesting. Maybe in Boston they were saying, but they were saying that Kennedy here in New York was in trouble. That's what they were saying. Then it looked like he was going to win, and he didn't. So I think it's funny where polls are funny. I don't know. I can't read the polls. One says one thing, another one says something else. So it's funny. So you got one thing saying something there and something else saying a little something here in New York, which I find interesting. In the overall, I totally agree with you. Right now, I'm going to say, I think from the numbers, I have to go with the incumbent at this stage right now as far as who has the advantage. So right now, I got to say this is advantage Trump until Biden can get the people out to the polls and get them to start and get them to vote. Voting is already happening right now, so voting is coming in. So there are numbers that are coming in that people are kind of looking at. So it's not like votes are not coming in. People are currently voting right now. So all right, go ahead.
Yeah. Because the same thing happened with Elizabeth Warren. She was posed to win Massachusetts. She got blown out in her own home court. So
yeah.
It's just one of those things. But MLT's getting started. Let's go.
Yeah.
MLT, if your mic is muted, we can't hear.
Yeah, unmute your mic.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
MLT, do you need me to host a video?
MOT, you there? We're having a little technical difficulties here, I see.
Yeah, I think we're having some technical difficulties here. So, and the debate has already started. So,
Mike, any way you could take over hosting and possibly streaming it yourself? I'm not sure.
I think MOT is now the primary host. So,
Stop. I'll wait to see when he gets going.
yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with MOT. I think they're just doing introductions right now on the debate. So we do have at least a good 2 to 5 minutes.
Could you share it on your screen? It's on C-SPAN.
All right.
Are you showing up for C-SPAN?
You have to give me primary host capabilities.
Okay, all right. I'll give you both of them, so just in case. I'm not sure why that shit keeps disconnecting. I'm not sure what the hell that's going on. But it did it like 2 or 3 times. I've never had this shit happen at home before. All right, you got it, Mike? Yeah, I can't hear anything. Mike, no sound.
She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they're trying to do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
Biden.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine.
party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am
And
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And
this.
if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which was heavily
Mr. President.
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
Much later.
Mr.
You're
President.
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
a
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not on the ballot.
it's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask
Go
my
ahead.
question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you an
rid of the
and when
individual
I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse
opportunity.
me. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of
comprehensive
Obamacare. That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst
I
part of
didn't ask you,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare. I
President,
got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate. and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
Go ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump healthcare plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example, insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people. The cost, I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because
When in
they
fact-
pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say,
of
this
what
is
we do.
open discussion.
No,
Let
but
me
this
ask
is
you about,
big-
this
this
you'll be
is big
happy,
stuff.
sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
will, if I can
sorry.
ask you the question, it will
Not what your
end
party says, by the way.
it will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number two.
agreed with Bernie
Number-
Sanders, who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
Well,
we
you-
call it.
well,
And that
manifesto-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going to
didn't
listen to
agree?
him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here.
Not by
I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do is
Super
hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure, because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a lier.
But you
I just
agreed.
want to
Hey,
make
Joe,
sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy, the wrong.
It sounds like TPTO. It sounds.
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders said the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him,
It's a private thought right here.
No manifesto, number
please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
do you
Medicare.
have any
President.
do?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care
Who is Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three.
health care at a
But-
much lower price
But,
because
and by the way,
Obamacare
he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen,
Gentlemen, you
is
realize
no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president, go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the
Not
individual
true.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed that. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay. I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what his
So
people
we
said.
do want to
No,
get
no,
rid of it.
it's
Chris,
an
we
open-
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for healthcare.
Of course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a healthcare plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right,
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't wanna
you're a
answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right, gentlemen,
This is-
I think
This
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
We have
We're
ended,
not going to give a list.
we have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
They should have had this debate right here.
Man,
The people understand, Joe.
they should
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
Oh,
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Well,
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
just 2
March
minutes.
exactly
So
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we
wait.
would have listened to
You
you,
have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000. And one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was-
far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
you made
by
a
the way.
point. Let him answer.
And there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them
you're
left, I don't know
suggesting
what I
that
call
the
them.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available. not when it
Well,
will
we're
be.
going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
this
delivering
is the
the
same
vaccine.
man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the
That
same
was
man.
said sarcastically,
That was
you
him.
know that.
I
That
don't-
was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up though.
You'll have
on
the
that.
vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't, or
knows.
Senator
And
Harris is saying
no,
you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health
Did say
experts,
that.
quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and Fauci,
scientists that are in charge.
by the way,
they will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Let him finish.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So-
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done
Well,
nothing.
let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
this.
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
If you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
You see,
and
he-
it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
okay.
It's going up fast. I look
Okay.
forward to talking
When it
about
comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
The-
Nancy
the-
Pelosi. And
and
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with
Okay.
the Senate.
Let-
And he sits in his golf course. And well, I mean,
Nah.
literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country,
Oh,
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
ju-
a
he
great
just
thing by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute,
Let
Joe.
him
Let me
finish,
shut
sir.
you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election
All
on
right,
November
I want to
3rd.
move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political
on to another
I've
subject.
gotta
But
respond.
those,
I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject.
doing well that are shut down
Which is
right
gotta
now.
now.
respond to that.
Wants
President
to shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks are
efficacy
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on it, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, look
serious
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a little bit more than a minute left in this
masks
segment.
Are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with—
because nobody will show up.
People with—
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you not worried about spreading
as a
disease?
President, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about
we
the
have
disease
a lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encourage them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear a mask. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right, your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's his yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools, why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency, not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses, nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right, your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When
gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
I went... you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good. And we have a very, I built a great company.
I'm asking you a specific question, which is.
Let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No, Mr. President, I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
Not 750.
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. You'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build the building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who in fact need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what as the analysis done by Wall Street firms points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is busted.
Mr. President, Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look, we inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't booming.
He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when fact, when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse me, Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take a
guy is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of my
not bring it.
standard fare.
I'm the guy
He
that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
All
industry.
right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
No,
came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having that.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars, to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is
Simply
it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
is
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that
deserve $183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
the
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh,
It's
really? He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
it's
Mr.
totally,
President, please.
totally
ask the question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
that is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
But Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
no
President,
job.
My son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
the only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly
By
discredited.
who?
And
The
Ukraine.
media.
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
Every-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under.
He got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know who
honorably.
they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some,
good
because
job.
Some people don't do
Well,
a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say-
You get
here's the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
tell you,
No.
No.
Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President,
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did he
not true.
deserve $3.5 million
He
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family, we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
already
lost
wrote-
a fortune by
Go ahead.
coming down and helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a.
They're right
That's
here.
it, Mr.
That's
President.
such a
Every
great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us with
family. It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect $3.5
people.
million
He
for
doesn't,
nothing.
that's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need, you, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about
you
here.
should
All right,
Not
that's the
about
end of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No,
He
I-
stood up.
No,
He stood up
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine
No, sir.
with $1 billion
Sir,
if you don't
That
get rid of
is
the Russians.
You know what, you're-
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape
You're-
doing it.
you're gonna
You're on
have-
tape.
True.
Gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is who's
now, second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
he did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the Black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for Blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate, never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of a town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place?
That is not peaceful.
President Trump,
No, it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President
did not
Trump, I'd
say-
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order
Please.
in a moment.
Fine.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place. It's a racist place. And they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but the
Lord.
reason
This
is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are you
it
in
and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
Yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
a,
it.
You
everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
Law and
He
order.
loses
Law
left.
and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down
He-
much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're
He
not.
is
You're,
president of
Mr.
the
President, you're going
United
to.
States of America.
Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And
we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He would know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. Yeah. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean? And do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
Think
All right.
Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported
gentlemen,
you.
I think I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted. And anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader, excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Really? Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him. And for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the here's the point. The point is that that's what he keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
And-
every single solitary
Okay,
time.
and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly,
Wait,
you have
just one
repeated, no,
second.
you've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to
you know,
end it.
sir.
I would love to end it, and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very
switch seats,
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm,
send
no,
in the
I'm,
National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
you have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups
Sure.
and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that,
specifically
but
Do it.
Well,
I
go
would
ahead,
say,
sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you
If
saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right-wing
Proud
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem.
His
This
own
is a left-wing.
FBI director
This
said
is a
the threat
left-wing
of
problem.
white
Go ahead, sir.
supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you gotta be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what
Oh,
his
it's an idea.
His
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well,
We're
then
gonna-
you know what?
No,
He's
no, that we're
wrong.
done. We're done, sir. We're moving on to the next.
Everybody
We're
gives
moving.
you
When a bat
advice
hits
in
you
your
over the head, that's not
administration.
an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is bad.
administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas. that are-
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets, but we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges, because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Fine, sir.
300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President
Under
Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, The fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got
No,
$3.5 million.
And by the way, my son,
wait a minute, Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
he never keeps his word. Can you add
No,
back
no,
He's
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That was a
not
rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son-
fortune,
My son.
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why
I'm
was he
proud of
given
my
tens
son.
of millions
All
of
right.
But he
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of millions of
He was
dollars.
given
That is
tens of
totally,
millions of
that's been
dollars.
totally
President Trump,
discredited.
we've already been
Totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay,
from
right.
the
Let's
mayor
talk
of
about-
Moscow,
let's
That
talk
is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
you know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country, It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
that's burning down because of a lack of management.
Sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored.
No, but you would take a lot of cars
rollback.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that Well, the fact that
true. Not true.
it's all true. And here's
He's
the
talking
deal.
about the Green New Deal, and it's not 2 billion or 20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip
Biden
down
plan.
Go for a
buildings
minute and then you can go.
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous,
is not-
where airplanes are out of
Wait a minute,
business,
That's it.
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want
true.
to take out the cows too.
Not
That's not
true.
true either, right?
Not
This is
true.
a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than
that
our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're
not
going.
the case.
All right, let
It
me,
will destroy our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good
$100
paying
trillion.
jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100
They-
billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good paying jobs, and these tax incentives to people for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. And they may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
you
New
want to
Deal
rebuild every
is not
building.
my plan.
You want to
All
rebuild
right.
every.
If he knew anything
wait,
about,
wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen.
about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
that is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
And he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said,
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
not
said
true.
it.
Stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that. to
play
the
it.
military.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little
much
trouble,
too much.
I'm having a little trouble
That's right.
myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the
the-
idea of what
the-
your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build.
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support?
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I
That's
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, We're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? You're going to get 4 more years of these lies.
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our first lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir,
all run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote,
like
they used to in the old
millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he knows
You're
of the
wrong.
outcome.
You're wrong.
No, I want to continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President
vote.
Biden. because
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they
That can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots
I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already
All
there's
right,
been
so now-
fraud.
Mail
deception.
service delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen, and the
185
final
million
question
pieces of
is,
mail a day.
million
in 8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking. In 8
it's a
states,
disgrace.
election workers are
Very-
prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
Could be months.
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell
And
you
what
what,
does that
from
mean,
a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're going
tell
to
you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to the
It means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what
sending
are you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do about that?
They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name
All right.
military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since at the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established.
Take
Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I
in
asked
Manhattan.
you had an opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president, not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
if
see
in
an
fact,
honest
Okay,
ballot count.
gentlemen,
We-
you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
going to
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Man.
That
Yeah.
shit is what as predicted.
What?
Okay, let me say this. Trump did not lay a glove on Biden. Biden sat there. Trump just went crazy talking over him. Sounded like he had COVID psychosis. Sounded like he was a PTSD dude. He was tight. He was going off, talking crazy.
He sounded like a hood servant. That's what he did.
He was hood conservative down. He's hood conservative down. Literally, I'm talking about PTSD down, and then refused to denounce the white supremacists at these activities. Refused to denounce them. I was like, what? You gotta denounce that shit up front. Even the white supremacists will be down with you on that, because you can't be seen. You can't be seen out there like supporting this crazy extremist shit. He refused to fucking talk. I couldn't believe it. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Anybody who sat there listening to this heard this shit. I mean, it was a fucking shit show. This is your president. It showed you just how bad Hillary Clinton really was 4 years ago. This guy shouldn't even be in the fucking office. This guy is fucking horrible. Why is he even there? This guy's a sucker. He's a straight sucker. Total failure. Total failure at the game. Total failure. Total failure. No answer for anything. No answer for COVID. No answer for the economy. No answer for shit. No answer. Just keep things going the way they are. He don't give a fuck. This guy's fucked up. It showed you just how bad Hillary was. Hillary fucking sucked. She was fucking garbage. She was hot garbage. This guy shouldn't be here. This guy's in over his head. That's it. I'm done.
Mike.
Yeah, it went just as predicted. I definitely think that Joe had low energy. You can see the difference between now and back then going against Paul Ryan. When he went up against Paul Ryan, he came out swinging. This time around, this guy was on the ropes. He was in this corner. I mean, he did lash out a few times, but he was not as aggressive as Trump was. Even though Trump did not even prep for this. He did not prep for this. So it just it just looks to me as if Trump had a lot of energy, but he was all over the place. But Biden tried to take the high road, and that did not work out well for him at all. I think Biden tried to play the talking to the camera and talk to the people. That doesn't work with guys like Trump. You have to, in order to go up against Trump, man, you got to knock him out the first time around, man. You got to go straight for the jugular. And that's what he should have done. He should have went for the jugular. He should have painted him with white supremacists in the Michigan State House. I was really looking for him to go after that, and he didn't do that at all. And I was pretty surprised at that.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to understand that this is a formal.
You're sharing your screen, MLT.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing it for a specific reason.
Yeah, I know what you're doing.
Yeah, so it's like if you were to show up to a debate and act like the sitting president of the United States acted, there's no way you would be asked back. I caution people to go back and look at the debates before this era and see how the people interacted with each other who actually disagree with one another. You know, you got to have a semblance of order to be able to discuss issues.
Absolutely. 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 The president, in my view, was all over the place, screaming, acting crazy. There are two other debates. So the thing that I see with Joe, this is what I disagree with Mike about, that you had to come in here and totally knock this guy out. No, let this president jump all over the place, act crazy.
I mean, let him talk.
Yeah. Scream, go off, you know, blah, blah, blah. Talking crazy, all right? Refuse to denounce white supremacists when I asked him. And Biden just stuck with the facts. He went after his children when he was like, "You're going after my kids? You're going after this? I can be going after your family all day long. I'm not going to try to sit here and do this." You see, Biden is not trying to convert Trump's people. He's not trying to do that.
He's not trying to.
Okay, what Biden is trying to do is let me get the middle of the road, is the undecideds to roll with me and deal with somebody who's actually somebody who's got some sense, who's thinking kind of clearly on this message. Look at this guy going unraveled and talking crazy the way he was, the way the president was, and basically lying about a lot of things. Just jump up there saying a lot of shit about, well, you let all these guys die in the military and things like this. What the fuck are you talking about? So when you sit here and you listen to what this guy was trying to do, he's just trying to throw a lot of shit out there to confuse people. Now, this is exactly what we expected him to do. Come off like a PTSD crazy motherfucker that just came out of, you know, and I do believe he's got some PTSD because, quite frankly, the COVID thing is so bad, he's got to run from it. He's got to run from that. He's got to run from it. But yet he had no answers for anything critical with respect to the climate, with respect literally to the economy. Said keep the economy open and let people continue to go the fuck out. When we're getting ready to hit round two, we had 200,000. There are 1 million people who've died. We have over 200,000 that are a part of that death toll in a country that's 5%, that's 4% of the population of the world. And this guy's saying it's all right. I mean, you have to look at the people who are listening to this thing and not going in trying to say, well, let's get into a street fight with this guy. No reason to get into a street fight with him like that, because at the end of the day, he's not trying to convert the hardcore Trumpites. He's trying to go ahead with that 8% of undecideds. That's going to be the difference in this game. And here you got a president denying the fact that that the ballots are very, very, the mail-in ballots are it's a non-existent problem. It doesn't even really exist in the numbers. It's so negligible. It is statistically insignificant. But he's going to up and try to make a whole lot of big hay out of that when people know this. And the Heritage Foundation, a very conservative group, okay, who has an online record of all of these elections, okay, and they keep the numbers online on file so you can look. And they've only had, I think, a total of 204 cases, okay, and 143 convictions in the last 20 years. So that's, and you break that down, that's one conviction out of every 7 states. One conviction out of one state every 7 years, and the numbers are 0.0006%. Of what the total vote count is. And this is a conservative group that has it online right now. You can see it's a conservative group. Shows you that it's just not a factor. But yet this is what this guy is still talking about and screaming and going crazy over. So to sit here and try to get into a knife fight with a fucking knife fighter who's coming out of the corner, a New York street fighter coming out of the fucking alleyways. Nah, man, you stand in the middle of the street and you power you keep moving around. You crack him every time he overswings and just keep moving. Let him tire himself out and swing and look crazy. Let him do that. No reason to get totally in the gutter when this guy wants to go into the gutter. He's got no other opportunity. He's got no other chance. This is what he's got to do. So I don't think he did himself any good for the middle of the road, for the middle of the road fence sitter. I don't believe he did any good. I think he might have done himself some harm. Anyway, go ahead.
Like this is what I don't understand. The elections are won in the middle.
That's exactly correct.
I mean, he won because people had no idea what was going to happen.
He only got 46% of the vote, remember? He only got
You have
46%
to.
of the vote. He never
I mean,
had a
you have to
giant.
understand, though, that look, you already got the people who's already going to vote for you. I mean, you can't get more of the people who already going to vote for you. Like, do you have to moderate what you're actually doing out there, man? Like, I don't understand the strategy. You already got those people. You have to present yourself in a way so everybody else who's not your people can somehow see the reasons of what you're talking about. There is not a CEO of a company, there's not a military general who thought that was a good display of the leader of the free world. No one thinks that.
This guy, he looked like one of those white mobsters from a Queen's Borgata. That's what he sounded like. He sounded like he was coming out screaming, you're jumping over him. Sounded like somebody out of the Lucchese crime family. I mean, I looked at this guy like, what the fuck is this? So low energy, it was not within Joe's interest to get in there and get into a royal,
not in his interest at
horrific
all.
knife fight with this savage, and he called him a fucking clown, of which he was. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So I wrote down pretty much basically all the questions or the gist of what the questions were because neither side didn't really want to answer it, but one side was far worse than the other. So for the first one, what's the Supreme Court justice pick? What do you think about Trump's answer to that, Mike?
Is Mike muted?
Hold on. Did he leave? I didn't hear anybody leave. No, he's still here.
Is he muted?
He's a host because he was yeah, he is muted actually. Mike, you're muted. But Nagone, like what do you think of that question? The very first one about the Supreme Court justice.
The Supreme Court justice, it's an answer I expected. The president and literally his people to take that they were going to try to put that person in there because they had the power to do it. So I was not surprised at the answer from Trump. I knew that they're dealing with power concepts. They're dealing with power principles. So the name of the game is to put their conservative person on the court. I even saw Romney actually supported as well. So I was not surprised about that. I did listen to what Joe had to say. He knows that and Joe's been around a long time. He knows the Congress. He knows how this works. So he knew what was going to happen. He knows that these guys might be able to put the numbers together and pull this off. So I think he tried to answer it the best he could, but he knows that they've got the numbers in the Congress right now to pull this game off, to try to do some stuff, to try to knock out the ACA and do what they want to do. So he knows that he knows power politics. He knows the bottom line here. So I think he gave more of a political answer, but not a whole lot they can do really at this stage. The name of the game, how you could have stopped that is if you had the Democrats, if they had played their game smart before, even smarter, back when Obama was in office, they would still have control of this of the Senate, especially, and along with the Congress, and then maybe they could have stopped some of this, but that didn't happen. Party was in shambles, and this is what happened. So. So happens when you lose these local elections, and you with the Congress and the Senate. This is what happens when you lose. Go ahead.
All right. I mean, with the first question, they have to realize that they couldn't sit Merrick Garland because they decided, and all those justice openings were because Mitch McConnell blocked every single Obama judge when it came up.
Yep.
Like, that's what happened. Like, no person just willfully sits there and lets their judges be blocked like that. Like, he never fought for those judges to be sat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually what really happened there.
That's correct.
He blocked all of his everything. He blocked everything. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened there. So this person who's been on Supreme Court, I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. It's just expand the court. I mean, if you got people who writing laws like Citizens United, the court's already null and void anyway.
Yeah.
When they kept expanding police power, the court became null and void. I mean, it became quote unquote activist judges at that point.
It really was a political court, and the Democrats didn't hold power, didn't hold serve long enough when they made that decision to give the presidency to George Bush when his brother was governor of Florida, and they went to the Supreme Court. Political decision was made then. It was really going on then, and the Dems were too stupid to really sit back and control the Congress, to control the legislative branch of government that they had for the period of time that they
Well,
wanted.
they can't because the Citizens United, they get bought out and now the Blue Dogs own the party, and there ain't really shit you can do about it.
Well, I still believe, that you may have some of your blue dogs, but then if you put a certain level of political pressure on them and say, listen, certain kind of things are not going to come into your districts and so on and so forth if you go against this, right? Or we may potentially run somebody in your fucking district if you don't go with this. That's power politics. That's how you grab one of them by their cojones and squeeze hard, and then they'll fucking back down. But that's the kind of game you got to play, and they didn't play that. Okay, but Mitch McConnell has no problem whatsoever doing
None. Don't even care. All right, next question. Healthcare. It's like you have to keep it real. Their plan is to get rid of the Affordable Care Act and replace it with nothing. That's what the plan is, and that's always been the plan. That's why Paul Ryan never had a plan. That's why the other guy before Paul Ryan, that's why he didn't have a plan, because there is no plan. The plan is cut the things, let pre-existing conditions come back, let these healthcare companies start making record profit, and they just start turning people down for care. That's the thing.
They want it to be a states' rights issue.
Yeah, and that's what they made it actually.
Yep, that's what they wanted, and so you have some people in the chat who are saying, the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare. See, Obamacare was branded by the Republicans. Okay,
it was.
It was branded by the Republicans.
Mitt Romney's plan when he was in Mass. So.
Yeah, the original name for the plan is called the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. They had 8 years to repeal it and replace it, and they did nothing once 2016 came about.
Zero. They did zero.
And so correct. What some of these yo-yos don't understand is that the ACA was a bipartisan agreement. It was bipartisan. It wasn't a liberal or Democrat agenda. It was a bipartisan agreement on both sides of the aisle back in 2002. So I'm not sure why, and that happened under Republican leadership. That happened under Republican leadership. It only took place in Massachusetts because Mitt Romney got his grubby hands on it in the first place. That was his claim to fame. And
that was being also, but you have to say that was also being pushed by Ted Kennedy as well. So let's
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was bipartisan. So what I'm saying here is, these people who say we gotta get rid of Obamacare, it's a failure. It's bipartisan. It was both sides. What are you talking about?
But Mike, the key piece that you just brought up was it was bipartisan back in 2002 under the Bush regime. Mm-hmm. But most of these people who sit here and talk and criticize, remember, they have no historical perspective. They don't know what the fuck you're even talking about. Now, I'm not trying to down anybody else here. I'm just saying they don't know. They are unaware of these facts. That's the key piece that a lot of people are bereft of when they come into these debates and talk some of this stuff. They don't know from
Yeah,
whence
you
to
got to recall a lot of information, and it's just too easy to say, oh, they're trolling back and forth. And this. I'm not even interested in that. All right, the next question. Court packing. Joe Biden artfully and skillfully said that he would not be against or even provide an actual answer on whether or not he would pack the court. And I think they should. I think they should pack the court. I think they should get rid of Citizens United first. And because you're going to keep getting these whack tickets for presidential politics and probably all over the country until you get rid of Citizens
United. This is absolutely correct. What Joe Biden really didn't want to, lead his hand over to, because this Republicans are doing now, and the Democrats are looking to play this game if they are able to take over the legislative branch of government. They're going to come in with they're talking now themselves pure power concepts, just as we are seeing from the Republicans, who said that they would not put a judge on and all that. They would wait for the election. First thing they're doing is put them in there because they have the ability to do it. The Democrats get in there. They're going to put more federal seats up to stack the court in their favor and move forward. That's where we are. These guys are no longer talking about, keeping a small court or whatever. They're talking pure power concepts, pure power principles here. That's the game. That's the game that they're running. That is why back in the days of Roosevelt, when he was going into his fourth term, I remember my mother said when she was a kid, she didn't know any other president that existed except Roosevelt, because he was president through all her time, basically from the time she was a kid or whatever, till she started moving up into early adulthood. So that's just how that was. He was stacking the courts, and they decided to cut the presidential term limits to 2 because of the stacking of the courts. So that's exactly what these guys are doing. They're stacking the courts in their time frame, so they're able to do that now. Listen to that. I mean, you're looking at somebody like Trump with with a lot of with fundamental control of the legislative branch. He'll be able to put 3 judges in, where Obama, who was in office, was really only able to really put in 1 in 8 years. I mean, think about this. Here's a guy.
And Mr. McConnell, exactly that.
That may be going out. He may be going out. He did not do himself that much good tonight, I don't believe, to move the needle significantly. And it's my view that here these guys are looking to stack the court, and his guy had been here 4 years. So you have to look at what's going on. I think the Democrats are going to take on a pure power concept or pure power principle type of game now, and run it that way. I mean, that's what Republicans are doing. I think that's what's up now. I think that's the order of the day.
All right, cool. Mike, you have anything on this court packing thing? That question?
No.
All right. So the next question, who do you trust on COVID-19? One of these dudes was all over the place. I mean, you can't have nobody in charge who has that level of discourse about something that's serious. You just can't. I don't know who thinks that guy probably nailed that, because everybody was used to the actual showmanship of what he was trying to do versus the actual substance of what was supposed to be discussed there. I don't understand. I don't understand.
No, he filibustered his way around the question about, the deaths.
Correct.
He
kept minimizing and acting like it didn't exist. And like that's weird, man. Weird.
Right. He blamed it on China. He blamed it on the left. He blamed it on everybody except him. He blamed Biden for wearing a mask versus he said, "Well, I have a mask in my pocket." Well, you don't wear it, so what's the difference? Herman Cain came to your event talking about this is a hoax, and then he goes home and he dies, and under your watch. I don't know.
And never made mention of his death in his campaign whatsoever as he moved forward. Excellent point. I was going to say the same thing. That's pretty much he. You know, as president, you know, the buck stops here. He refuses to deal with the buck. He passed the buck on to others when he is a sitting president. And your job, I mean, and once again, I will say this, like they said in the movie, what was that, Lincoln? I am clothed in immense power.
Mm-hmm.
All right, to do certain things that I have to do. The Daniel Day-Lewis character said as Lincoln, clothed in immense power. The president is clothed in immense power to deal with emergency circumstances like this. He did not use that. He passed the buck on to many incompetent, how would I say, governors and so forth. And hence, this is the response that you've had, which has been dismal, crazy. And anything that he claimed that he had done well was destroyed underneath this. And it's his leadership. Yeah. He's trying to pass the buck and he cannot. And I thought it was a dismal performance on that. And any middle of the road, forget about the people who are on the left or forget about those who are on the right. Okay. I would say the people who are in the middle of the road who had grandma and grandpa dying, your mom and others who have died. Okay. Which is an extraordinary stressful thing, have gone through this. He makes no mention of it. I thought that was dismal from that of your commander-in-chief. Dismal, very bad.
Yeah, see, and the idea here is that, well, Herman Cain had pre-existing conditions. Well, according to according to some of these, Red Hat supporters, it's a plandemic. It's not real. It's a it's a conspiracy. It doesn't really exist, right? I just go around without my mask and I don't care. I just walk into places without a mask on. Well, now you're saying that he had pre-existing conditions. Which one is it?
Well, when you're trying to pass the buck, Mike, and you're not thinking about this thing from a standpoint of science and so forth, it's a very easy argument that they can try to make. But when you look at what the realities are, I was on a call just the other day with Dr. F. Frank, who happens to be head of epidemiology and infectious disease at Westchester Medical Center. He was giving a talk to a group of one of my friends who actually put me on the call with them, who works for the state. And I said, he said, CB, you want to listen to this? So I sat there and I checked this thing out, and I sat there, and the information that they started bringing about was devastating, horrifying, almost devastating. They don't even call COVID a flu. They call it a disease because it affects organs and stuff like that later on down the line and affects your body for a long period of time. No, flu does that. This is a disease, and there are many strains, at least over 12, at least that you have here in this country right now, that can just fuck you up at any point in time, and many other things that are just very frightening. I'm not going to get into at this stage, but the experts know what time it is with this thing, and they've known it for a while. But one thing they do know that is effective against this are masks and are the basic fundamental protocols that you have to take on a regular consistent basis to keep this thing at bay. So masks, distancing, quarantine, this is what is effective against this. As bad as this disease can be, and as horrifying as it is, and its unbelievable mutagenic nature that is almost beyond science fiction. People are not thoroughly understanding this. The information has not been dropped down properly. It hasn't been, unified and then put through all, every agency, and the same message has come out. That just hasn't been done, and that's a mistake from the top. So this is why we have what we have. But we do know that protocol, masks, hand washing, distancing, is what is most effective against this. You know, a vaccine is a joke at this stage of game, as he broke it down. It's a joke. You're not going to be able to deal with the different strains and stuff that are out here. You're going to get limited amount of protection. Very important to understand this. And this is where these guys have fundamentally messed up. Go ahead, Emily. I'm sorry.
All right, Mike, you got anything else on this?
I just want to answer one point in the chat. It says you guys want a man with early onset on dementia as president. One is a clown, the other has dementia. Either choice zero something. We never said anything about either one that we're choosing. We haven't even gone to the ballot yet. It's
one of them David Monroe style questions where
yeah.
you can't concentrate on what's in front of them, so they just make some shit up and just concentrate on that. All right, so the next question. A vaccine date. I can't even believe this is even a question when we know what the process is. Like, I'm not sure why you would lie about the progress of a vaccine when they said at minimum it's going to be June of next year. If everything goes right.
He has to. You finished?
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
He has to say something in order to make it look like he is the solver. Even though he says that, you know, it's a hoax and, you know, it's a pandemic and, you know, it came from China and this and that. He has to make it seem like he's doing something, but in reality, he really doesn't have an ace up his sleeve because his supporters won't even wear masks. What makes him think that they're going to take the vaccine?
Yeah.
That's exactly correct. He has to come up with some kind of hoax, you know, hoax solution of which he has none. A vaccine, and I've been on the phone with the true experts, not just sucker lades talking out the side of their ass, but real experts, guys with MD, PhDs, MPHs, you know, more letters than than the alphabet behind their names, and they're heading up some critical departments, and here they're breaking it down as to, you know, what the real deal is, and a vaccine is absolutely not going to be of any great help. In fact, they're saying that this thing has not gone through even phase 3 clinical testing even yet, and you're talking about bringing this thing out by November. It's a ridiculous notion. It's a ridiculous notion. And if they did come out with something,
all the strains out there, and like,
you got all these strains that you cannot defend against. And they're saying that if you took a vaccine right now that they came out here, you might get paralyzed. You might get brain damage. All kind of things may happen to you. It's very dangerous because they already tried it on someone already, and some people have already gotten sick. So the bottom line, very, very simply, is they don't have an answer for it. The president has to come out and say something like this just to, you know, because he's running for re-election. So I understand why he's saying it. It's absolutely ludicrous, but I do understand why he's saying it.
Yeah, I work in big pharma myself, and we're not seeing anything production-wise until Q4 of 2021. That's earliest.
Yeah. The head of Merck, what was the president? The CEO of Merck, the brother. He said the same thing.
Okay.
Wow, it's just. All right, I'll go to the next thing. Trusting the public health and doctors and all these experts versus him. Like, I don't see why he would go on national TV and still try to make it look like he's more, or the people who he talked to is somehow different than the medical consensus. I mean, this is what consensus is about. Consensus is not about one person's opinion who don't like what's going on, so you go to the people who tells him what he wants to hear. What's going on, Grand Change? But that's like, I don't understand. It's such a bad display for him to even do something like that. I mean, I want this to be a debate that's a back and forth, but not this type of display. This type of display was just unneeded.
This is what I saw was a man. He's in over his head. He is in over his head. When things go really good and things are smooth, he's cool. Shit hit the fan, he could not deal with it. We've seen this as well in his businesses. That's why I never went for this man, because I saw what happened on the boardwalk in New Jersey. People sat back here and I saw what happened. Walked away from it. American banks wouldn't even give him any money after a while. So get this guy out of here. This guy's fucked up. And the only time he really got some more money back is when his dad croaked over, and then he took half of his $800 billion, and he blew that away also. So this guy has been a scamster for most of his time. That's just, I understand the business game. I'm in New York. I know the game with this guy. All right. And I had a very good friend who had a painting company that was a contractor underneath his. He got stiff for over $100,000. So I'm not going to sit down here and even get into that. But this man he's been risen to his highest levels of incompetence. That's what it was. And here he is right now in the middle of one of the most difficult circumstances that we've seen in the last 100 years. And this man has no answers. And that's what I got from him tonight. I could sit here and say, well, I just don't like this guy, but just trying to put my very objective hat on, what answers did he give me? Nothing, except what's going on is going to continue. And we're going to be looking at numbers coming around, not this time next year, but I'd say by March or certainly by April, will probably be somewhere around 500,000. Now, remember, the first, the Spanish flu in 1918, we had 675,000 die here in this country. We're already at 250,000. We're coming up on 250,000 people, okay, right now, and we haven't gotten out of September yet. Just take a look at what the projections might be by April of next year, when we might be there. We may have surpassed such a number. Horrifying. It's horrifying.
All right, cool. Mike, you got something else on that before we go to the next question?
Nope.
All right. Next question was based around the reopening the economy. Was that a good idea or bad idea? I'm like, oh my God. Again, some states opened up early and they had to reclose because they didn't want to follow the rules that was out there in the first beginning. I understand his point about opening things up. I mean, he wants things opened up so that way he can look good. People die when they die. I mean, it was necessary to close down to get people in the mind state that they need to do the social distancing and the mask thing. Because you still have people not doing the bare minimum to stop this shit from spreading. And it's like, how can that be something that can be even argued at this point? I don't get it.
Mike, you want to go? Because I want to say something, but go ahead, Mike. I'll let you go first. Go ahead.
Well, you had to shut down, according to the WHO. You had to shut down for 30 days because the symptoms would not show up for 31. So you had to close down for a month at least to try to figure out where everybody was in terms of the contraction of the virus itself. So it made sense to lock down. And it made sense to lock down for 90 days because you had people walking around without any symptoms, but they had the virus and they were carrying it around. And so you had these issues propping up, and he was not trying to be adherent to the WHO. So that's why he pulled out of WHO, because he felt that the WHO had a little bit too much power over what the United States could be doing. And so that's why he pulled out the Paris Climate Change Agreement as well as the WHO, because he didn't want to adhere to any of their guidelines. And so that led to the shutdown. But you needed to shut down for that very reason. And unfortunately, somebody in the chat said that he did close the border. He did stop Chinese people from coming in. It wasn't Chinese people that were bringing it in. It was coming from Europe, man.
That's exactly correct. I want to finish on that point, Mike. Go ahead, finish up, Mike, because I want to finish it now. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was coming from Europe. So the idea of stopping Chinese people, ethnically speaking, from coming in wasn't the issue. The issue was travel from Europe and at least from New York and LaGuardia and Kennedy. That's where the source was coming from. Was from coming from Europe. And same thing in Africa and the Caribbean. The source was coming from Europe. It wasn't coming from China.
Facts, because and so you have a few different strains. So the European strain had come over here, certainly by way of Italy, by way of Sweden, Denmark, and so forth. Those people who were coming through here as well, and that's a part of the whole story that they have actually tried to cut off and deny, and so that you're not knowledgeable of that. But that's exactly where it came from. That's what this strain more or less is, and it's mutated and it's moved into a few different, some very scary effects. But anyway. The problem of this whole thing was to open up the economy was you couldn't really open up the economy because you never got your hands around the viral problem. When you looked at countries that had a very successful response to this, what they were able to do is that the presidents or the leaders of their countries sat down with their various health agencies that existed inside their countries. They all met. They all unified one basic message. And from there, a unified movement or a unified process was taken from there and everyone followed it. That's what happened. And then testing was mandatory. Then there was quarantine. There was tracing that had to go on. And then you were able to begin to get your hands around the issue, like Germany is starting to open their economy up, okay, just like South Korea and so forth. Now, we've seen cases moving up with some of these people again, so they're shutting certain areas down and testing with other people and retesting people and making sure that they're staying on top of these issues because this disease is exceedingly contagious. It's some unbelievable shit, but they have nowhere near the level of death that we had because of that response. So they're talking about opening up the economy when we never got our arms around the problem in the first place. We never had mandatory testing here. Many people walk around talking about it's states' rights and my right to wear a mask or not to wear a mask when they were infectious and potentially killing people. This is, I don't know for anything else, but this is the beginning. I think what we're seeing is the decline of America. And I think we you know, a real decline here. And we're seeing that in its people, let alone from its leadership, which is reflective of its people. And this is what we've gotten. We never got our hands around it. So in which to open up the economy on something that you never got your arms around, which is asking for much greater disaster. That's what we have. And that's basically what he's going to continue to do. The country, by all rights, needs to be shut down for 30 days. Everybody tested. You're going to send out checks and all this kind of money to people and do all this kind of crap to keep the economy going, yet you don't want to buy enough testing and stuff. So everybody in every neighborhood would be tested, just like you have these census people walking around knocking on doors, taking your census. We have people over here knocking on doors, telling you where to go for your testing and seeing if you were tested, and then making sure that everybody knows where the status of everyone. And so we can then begin to properly open up from there once we know what the bottom line is on this issue. My old man told me, you don't have a bottom line, you're being bullshitted. We don't have a bottom line here. We don't know what our bottom line is on this, except herd immunity, which is going to be very difficult to do with 12 to 25 to maybe 30 different strains that may be out here right now. Okay, very difficult to do that. Okay, a lot more people are going to die. So this is the problem, and that's what Joe was talking about. This is what the president's been trying to avoid. No answer to it. Frightening. This is terrifying, and this is life and death. Make no question about it. So you're opening up on something that you've never had a chance to even you on a problem you haven't even begun to solve.
Nope. Hello, you still there? Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm done. That's what I had to say. I'm out.
All right, cool. All right. Next question. Oh, sorry. Okay. The question of wearing the mask, like, I'm not even sure why that would even need to be asked, even though we knew what the question was. even though we knew what the answer was going to be, I'm not sure why he would double down on not wearing the mask at this point in the conversation. I'm not sure what was the point of still trying to put up all this filibustering and debate over a damn mask. I don't understand it. Mike?
Is there a question?
Yeah.
What's the question?
The question was about the mask, the wearing of the mask. Why was there a question at this point in the game about the effectiveness of the mask being worn?
Oh, the idea was to make Trump look like a fool because he went against Fauci's recommendations. Okay, he's walking around without a mask. Then he clowns Joe Biden for wearing a mask, right? So if the WHO, the NIH, and all the other organizations, the agencies are saying, yeah, you should probably wear a mask, in order to reduce the spread. This guy's walking around without it. What's interesting is that Pence actually wears a mask.
Yes, he does.
Oh, yeah.
And admitted that they're going to be another upshoot of cases.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Herman Cain's family sue the Trump administration for having that event.
Yeah,
I would have liked for them to have done that at the RNC. I would have liked for them to have launched a lawsuit against the Trump administration. They had nothing to lose and a lot more to gain from it. But
oh yeah,
yeah. But on the question about the mask, yeah, it was made to put egg on his face.
Yeah. I believe that's true. The big issue also was Herman Cain chose not to wear a mask. So at the other level, he chose to do that, which was a foolish choice, and he paid ultimately for it. But the mask question that we even have, the science has shown you what time it is. Even back in 1918, when they didn't even know what a virus was, they were wearing masks, and that was able to keep a lot of the infection down during that period after people started dying like crazy. And that one mutated so violently, was killing people within 24 hours. We haven't gotten quite to that as of yet. And I think it's been because people have been smart about wearing masks and hasn't let some of these more virulent strains really get down the way it could. But the mask is critical. It's part of the science. And here in this country, we have people who don't believe in the science and don't believe it and want to politicize it. And that's what Trump did. He politicized the mask.
Yeah, which was to me.
Crazy.
Okay, all right. The next question was having a rally a good idea? Like, and a good idea. And I can't believe he just walked into that and just said, it don't matter. Or how big his crowds was inside these arenas. I'm like, dude, you don't understand how bad you're looking on TV. Dude, it's these people are going to vote for you, man. You don't have to go endanger their lives. I mean, they say nobody got sick. Well, I just don't think that's the case.
No, that's not true. They were coming with cases where they said at least 9 people that were there that night got it. And we're talking about people that were on the White House lawn with them. At least 9 people there got it, and they've been keeping that quiet ever since. People have been getting sick at every single one of these rallies, and they're keeping the information down. For good reason. I understand why. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just want to make a point because somebody in the chat said that a rally is no different than a protest. Anybody who's been to the BLM protests in any of the cities know that there are marshals out there with vests on. The colored vest, their job, they have a backpack on their back. They give out hand sanitizer and they give out masks. So I'm not sure how you equate the two. It's not the same.
That's exactly right.
I mean, protest being illegal if you're protesting the people that they don't like.
Yeah.
And this is why I don't talk to people about issues with the Constitution. I mean, because it's too confusing to them.
Mhm.
I mean, because anybody who disagrees with their people should be destroyed.
Yeah, the armed militia who went up to the Michigan State House, they didn't have masks on.
No, but they were strapped like bamboo though.
Oh, no. Find people on both sides.
Yeah.
Five people, but Jews will not replace us. People getting run down with cars. People getting beaten down. I mean, the cameras are, one thing I have to say about that whole incident was the cameras were rolling hard. They were rolling hard. And you saw exactly what was going down. One black guy was getting beat up and he looked at the cops and said, y'all gonna stand there to let this happen? They're like, well, we've been told not to intervene. Police officer looking at a black man getting beat up by a few savages. And he said they could not intervene. Unbelievable. This is on film, on camera. And this is what your president had to say. Scary.
All right. So the next question. How do you describe the economic recovery for both candidates? I think Trump kind of just galloped his way through the actual answer. Chris Wallace had to get him on track a couple of times. How do you say you have the best economy and then you got an improper handoff? And then he brought up the unemployment numbers and he just moved past it like it didn't even exist. Like, oh my God. Like, this is why I'm not going to be debating any more of these people who actually think this stuff. I mean, yeah, that's it. There's no talking to these people. There's no speaking to them. Because at the end of the day, man, like, you're only wasting your time at this point. They're doing it on purpose because they know you care about it. So if they can make you upset and mad over a specific issue, that's the thing, man. So I don't even know. It was even questionable at this point, but that's just me. Mike?
Yeah, Obama created more jobs in his term than Trump did in his term, his first 48 months. So, I mean, that's where we are. I mean, there is no real way to dispute otherwise. So,
Yeah, exactly correct. There is no debate, and the unemployment rate went down twice to three times the level that it went down with Trump. Trump, he got the economy when it was at just at about 6.6%. Okay, and then it went down. It went down to about 4.2, 4.3. That's where it went. All right. Obama and Biden got the economy when we were at, he said, even Biden screwed up. He said it was 15%, it was 17%, and they took it down to 6.5, 6.6 or so. Okay, so that's well over three times the amount of drop there. And black unemployment went down the greatest under Obama, where it went literally from, we were looking at 17, 18%. Those are by the numbers, and went down to under 10%, just about 7.5%. That's where it went. So, I mean, and it was dropping precipitously since 2010 to the time he left office. So these are the facts. And though everybody decides to go in on Obama, fair enough, go ahead. But those are where the numbers are. I mean, you can check it with factcheck.com, blackeconomics.com, and so forth. They'll break it down for you didactically. But Trump can claim that the unemployment rate has gone down when he was in office. Fair enough. Okay, if you're in office and things go favorably for you, you can claim it. So I'm not trying to take that from him. Okay, though we all know it was Obama's economy pretty much that he got. But the first chance, just like I predicted, that Biden would say, the first chance, the first real crisis that he had, he couldn't handle it, and things went to the shitter. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is he haven't started any new wars. That's the only thing positive I can say right now.
No, there is a war.
Well-
No, there is a war.
It's a trade war with China.
No.
No.
I'm talking about boots on the ground,
Cold.
dropping bombs like a new separate conflict. Oh, neocon.
There is a war. There is a war.
Venezuela.
There is a war that's killing close to a quarter of a million Americans. There is a
Yeah.
war, a deadly enemy.
Yeah.
Well, he's putting boots on the ground in states where the challenges his rule.
Yeah.
That's the boots that he's putting on the ground.
And has also threatened states that he said are anarchist states from getting funded. This is your president.
Yeah, I don't understand where that was going, but here, the next question was.
Hold a second. I just want to say one thing very quickly. You saw how Biden was trying to. How Trump was trying to take jabs at Biden being stupid. No, man, you're dumb. You shouldn't call me dumb. You graduated. This is your class. Well, from what I remember, his sister said that he had people taking his SATs for him. And Biden didn't jump on that one. He should have eaten his ass alive on that one, but he didn't. But this guy was just trying to go after this guy personally, make it ad hominems on him. I thought this was some shit out of the manosphere. I said this shit should be on teapots, man. This is where we should have this. This is where this bad boy should be right now, for real.
Yeah. All right. The next question is the personal taxes of Donald. I'm not sure why he couldn't because he's still under audit. That's the thing. And the reason why he's under audit is because of what they just found out now, is that he's losing a gang of money. So the guy was a fraud from beginning to end. This run for president was a money ploy. I don't understand it. At the minimum, every business transaction that he made where he had to show his tax returns or present them to some type of banking institution is bank fraud. And if he receives the funds, it's wire fraud. And if he sent something in via the mail, it's mail fraud. So if his taxes ain't up to snuff and he kept using his taxes to get more and more money and loans from people, that dude's in a lot of trouble. That dude's in a world of trouble.
Mike, you want to grab this one?
I'll pass on this one.
Well, I'll say very quickly. It's about money for him. You can see that this guy ultimately is going to have about $400 million or so of debt that he's got to pay off from loans that nobody even knows who the lenders are. So who knows what's going to happen here? So is this a compromisable guy? Absolutely. If I'm sitting back here and I've got those kind of debts and somebody comes up to me and says, listen, Carl, let me explain something to you. I see what's going on.
No circumstance, he'll never be able to get a clearance. Not even.
Listen, this guy has got to declare bankruptcy or something else like that. Now, as a sitting president, you have to sit down and say, somebody can come up and say, listen, Mr. Prez, I understand you got all these issues. So when you get out of office, X, Y, and Z, man, listen, we can relieve some of this debt for you. We can do that. But this is what we want you to do for us. Will you do it? Because if you do that, I will put $100 million, it's good faith money, into some of your accounts right now. So offshore one. And then next thing you know, other things are going down. So you can't have severely compromised people like this. That's why they're saying these are national security issues. People have to sit down and think about that. This is not a game. This is not a joke. It's not something that people can just sneeze off when your commander in chief is this heavily financially compromised. This is very serious business. And not that these guys are going to foreclose, let's say, if he wins on a sitting president, but let's just say that they could, certain kind of pressures could be brought to bear where the president will be looking to get from underneath that that kind of yoke. And he started to complain about they started to serve his kids serve the government, and it's been hurting them in business. So he already told you that his money game is fucked up, and he's got issues. Scary. Anyway, go ahead, man. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right, the next question. Trump's abject denial of denouncing white supremacists and other militia members showing up with guns at these rallies and all this. Dude, I don't know what in the world is the political strategy of not being able to deny those people. Dude, you already got those votes already. You already got those votes already. I don't know.
It's his character. The guy's fucked up.
Dude, there was a T-ball shot. He couldn't bring himself to just say, yeah, I denounce those people.
No, he talked about the KKK. No, see, he talked about that the other day, right? At the Atlanta rally. But in terms of these the Proud Boys and these other groups, nope, won't say anything about them. See, it's easy to go after the KKK because their numbers are down according to the FBI. But when it comes to the guys occupying the Michigan State House and the Oath Keepers, these other guys, no, then he's struggling with that because
that's his base. He don't want to piss him off.
That's his base, but to come out and do it would be political suicide for him. He knows that.
Well, you see, I don't know if it would be political suicide for him because his boys would understand. Listen, he can't come out and and acknowledge us. He have to just stay quiet. We'll just stay quiet, but we're still going to do our thing because we know he's down with us. But see, Trump, politically didn't even want to take that risk. So, I look at that, the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys or whatever, and all these cats out here just getting ill. He's afraid to say anything about them. I mean, he refused to denounce white supremacists. That hurt him badly in the suburbs. That hurt him badly amongst some of these sitting on the fence white women voters that he's supposed to bring in. That hurt him. That did not help him. That didn't help him. Amongst his base, he's good. But amongst that 8% of undecideds who are moving a certain type of way, that was not the proper response to that question. And problematic. That's why I say, guys, Joe, you can say low energy or whatever. Don't get into that fight, Joe. Let this boy hang himself. Let him go out of here, hang himself with this. All right? Because there are people going to be voting based on that. Anyway, go ahead.
Next thing, Trump versus Biden on race issues in the country. I mean, this guy went into just defending the police and how many police unions have you been endorsed by? I'm like, dude, the way you're acting on stage and saying that how many police unions have you been endorsed by means that we have to dismantle every single police department in this country. If they think that that guy is the guy who, I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any sense to me of not understanding that there is a problem. Biden should have came back at him with this Central Park 5. And I mean, to me, again, another easy question where you can just admit that there's a problem. There's pretty disparities, but we look at all the black guys who I hired in my cabinet. Again, right over the plate, very simple question that he just blew it off. I don't understand how you can do that. It doesn't make any sense.
You're talking about Trump as far as, right, handling that question?
Yeah.
I would agree. I think Biden could have definitely been a bit more pointed on that question as well.
Yeah, he let it go.
Yeah, I think he could have been a bit more pointed on that as well. He was a little nervous, and didn't want to be painted as a leftist and everything else like that. But I think he could have handled that question a little bit better. And Biden was never one saying to defund the police or anything of that nature. He felt that things could have been, community policing and all. He should be speaking up for that because a lot of people want that. White people and black people don't have a problem with that, with community policing and so forth. Defunding the police from the standpoint of looking at it as cutting the police out and eliminating the police departments and all that. That's what people have some fear of. White communities certainly do. Black communities certainly do as well. You have areas where people don't want to see the police as superior. They know that police presence can at times be can be helpful in given circumstances. So there has to be a balance struck here. I think that I thought Biden could have handled that. He handled it right, but I think he could have handled that better. The president, as far as I was concerned, gave his expected answer. But I think Biden could have been a little bit better on that. That's my opinion.
Say that again, Mosi.
I said on that particular thing.
No, I'll pass.
Trump was very all right. The next thing, the ending of critical race theory type of sensitivity training. I think that's outrageous. All the stuff that he said is un-American. Actually, what's un-American is not treating people equally under the law. That's what's un-American. Not the fact that you have to teach people how to treat people who don't look like them. Like, I don't think you have to teach people that. You can just see that they act a certain way under a certain set of circumstances, and you get rid of their ass. Like, dude, like we had these problems when I was in the Air Force. I used to have like these dudes going around patrolling like all black barbecues and shit and fucking with people. Until, they put them to the side like, hey man, I'm not sure where you were raised, but you can't be doing that shit on base. You had to tell this shit to people. It's crazy.
Well, the thing is, Trump came up with, his safe policing agenda, even though we know that's a Democrat agenda. He came out with that as a solution, but at the same time, he wants to push the 1776 Act. And he doesn't want any of that sort of critical race training being used in federal police officers. It's a contradiction.
It's just pandering. It's just pandering for talking. It's pandering for talking points among people who are already going to vote for you.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I really saw about this debate. The president, he did nothing that I could see to bring over those who might have questions about what he's doing, who might have questions about him, and take a look at to see, well, let's see if this guy, let's check him out more and see if he's really got my interest, my best interest out here. He did nothing that I could see to expand his base. He did nothing. He did nothing to do that. So,
50% plus one to win. You just can't go after the 36 or 37% of people who are already going to vote for you. Like, do you still need that 13, 14% of the people? And he did nothing with those people. Nothing.
46. He needs another 8 or 9%. He needs that. He needs that percentage to come up for him. To be comfortable. He's got to pull that. He's got to pull that from where he is. He's got to be able to pull himself into the 50s, especially if he's not going to fare as well as he did with respect, let's say, to Iowa, Michigan, and possibly Pennsylvania. Where I don't believe he did a lot of good there for those people there tonight. I don't think he did. So just pushing his base is where the lack of intelligence I see with this guy has. You got to expand that. That's why not those interested to get into a big giant roiling fight with him. He called him a clown, and And yeah, I have to say, I have to agree with the vice president that this guy's a clown. You know, I'm sorry.
This is what I didn't understand, right? Saying that, especially when the Youngstown plant closed in Ohio, dude, I lost a fucking gang of money when that shit closed. When Sharon, fucking Ohio went down, I lost a gang of money on that shit. When fucking, I mean, it's like 4 other places in Ohio. When that shit went down, I lost a gang of money over that shit.
I just have a lot. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's crazy that the people who actually lost jobs in that area cannot see the fact that Ohio's not doing better because of that shit. And on top of the COVID shit, like, no, man, none of that's doing better, dude.
The question was asked.
Ohio, same thing. Whole factory closed down. I used to do loads out of there too. And it's like, dude, you can't say that closing down the auto industry in Ohio, Indiana, Detroit, and Kentucky is somehow it don't matter and it don't count. I'm like, no, that shit does matter, dude. Like, I don't understand what would be the use, the overall use of saying how those people are not affected in those states when they clearly are.
You know,
mind blowing.
The carrier corporation packed up and bounced after they took government money, government welfare to keep certain things going. They bottled up and went down to Mexico. At a state, I mean, we saw these things happen. The question that Biden asked, are you better? Are you better off than you were, 4 years earlier? Are you really better off right now? Right now, a lot of people say, "No, I'm not better off, man. I'm not better off." A lot of people cannot. Some of us can say that, but it's a very small number. It's not the majority. Not the majority of people. People are risking their lives out here right now to try to make it. That's why I said about black men. A lot of us are out here on the front lines. I consider most of us heroes. We're out here heroes. You are risking your natural ass out here right now, and many of us have died for it. But this is what we're trying to do, to bring home some bacon, man, to take care of the family. What's going on right now? Wolf out the door like a mother. And this guy seems to be somewhat insensitive to some of this. I'm not saying that the president is totally insensitive to him. I'm not going to say that, but he's somewhat insensitive to some of this. And the response of what's happened with COVID, I believe the president, to a large extent, is in over his head. I saw him highly emotional. He's in over his head on this. He is in over his head. And he's hoping that this thing will just go away. I believe that's exactly what he said. I believe this thing will go away. He's praying for that, but it's not. And you have to do some very hard. You're gonna have to do some things that people are not gonna like for you to have to solve this problem. And to have people saying that they can do better. Mom's dying, grandma going out, all these other people dying and stuff like that. Dads, and moms who are on front lines working are dying. I mean, this is what we're talking about. This is not a game. The president doesn't seem to fully have a grasp on this. And
you go for the talking points and the sound bites. I'm like, dude, this is a presidential debate. You cannot act like this on the stage. And once you see these poll numbers come out, it's not going to be positive, man. And it's just not going to do nothing but make them keep getting more and more unhinged. You got anything, Mike?
Nope.
Mike, you got nothing to say to this? Huh?
All right. Next thing is violence is not a party issue. I'm glad they brought this up in the debate, because Maryland had a Republican governor for a while, and so did Illinois, I think simultaneously at the same time. And I don't think the crime went down in Baltimore or Chicago commensurately at all, even though they had those mayors that was of a, I'm sorry, not mayors, governors of other parties. So well, people keep trying to do this, oh, the black people are dying in Chicago bullshit argument. But he actually did on national TV in a debate. This is crazy. Like, oh my God. Like, I don't know what audience he was trying to hit with that other than the hood servants. Like, I don't understand who he was trying to reach with that.
Well, they all
That's my. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
they all pull from the same playbook. You know, the same, you know, hike, you know, and lob. That's all they can do. And like it was brought up, you know, most of your violent crimes are coming out of red states.
They talked about it, Tulsa and Tennessee. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, so they brought that up, but see, people don't bring that up. Oh, then he went back to the classic tropes, as you heard, Chicago. I mean, it was a play out there called Chicago. You start singing that song, that came from that play. But yet, that's like I said, it's the hut lob game, same play. We see it 1,000 times, same shit. So they don't, you know, obviously he has no answer to that. And like I said, when I really look and analyze this debate as far as who are you trying to pull in with that, I don't believe the president has done. I don't believe he's done his job. I think Biden sitting back, people will say this guy's retarded. I didn't see him as being retarded. I just saw him. He was like, maybe I shouldn't get into this level of fighting with this guy, of which I think he was correct about. I think people look at Biden potentially as maybe the more sane of the two. That's kind of what I'm looking at, trying to be objective. You know, this is my president. You know, I was not proud of his performance, and just some of the stuff he said was just wow. It was really out there, really out there.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, and it's just talking point city. Who are you trying to gain votes for? I'm telling you, man, you're gonna have every newspaper in this country who watched that debate endorse Biden. There is not a single newspaper who can look at that debate and say, I want this guy to go back and be president. Nobody can say that. But all right, so here's the next thing. Not fully answering the question about accepting the outcome of the election. That's a real strange one to me, man.
Well, in this regard, I would say that Trump does have a point. The Democrats didn't accept the election either. He's right about that. They did try to protest and get him out of there and say that the Russians sabotaged the election by interfering with it. That is a sore loser mentality on their side. But he openly said that he wouldn't leave. So he won't recognize the results, I should say. He wouldn't recognize the results. So, you know, they're both guilty on both sides. So.
Yeah, but the president is disingenuous when he talks about that the ballots are questionable when he himself votes by paper ballot. He himself does it because his residence is no longer in Manhattan. His former residence is in Florida, where Key Largo. That's where he votes from. So, and he uses a paper mail-in ballot as well. So you're going to say you're going to do that, but yet at the same time say the whole system is rigged, is jury rigged or whatever. And then we know from many different agencies, even some very conservative ones, that this is absolutely not the truth. You know, tells me that the president at some level is desperate, and that he is, he knows he's in trouble, and this is him already putting up the fight before before this thing is over. He's going to contest the election already because he feels that these guys may not win. So
I don't believe that he would be on there bragging about judges and how many he set. Like, that's means the system wasn't working properly. And then he tried to blame Joe Biden for the fact that Barack Obama didn't sit all those judges. I'm like, dude, they blocked all that shit. And it's like,
blocked. We saw it.
Wow.
We saw it. And that's a Democrat, and that was the Democrats' fault because they had both branches and they blew it in 2010. And that was it. President put on a few judges, didn't fill most of the seats, and these then the Federalists jumped in there, of which McConnell and all of them are part of, and they wanted to block those and put in their conservative people, and they have been successful. So I put a lot of blame on the Democratic Party with respect to that, because Republicans are playing once again pure power politics. They're dealing with pure power concepts. They're not dealing with it. They don't care about hypocrisy or anything else like that. They don't care about it. They're moving forward when they have the power. That's what they're doing.
Yeah. Unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Yeah, I mean, all these other questions that are left, they're all answered within the debate. I've never seen a debate where there were no closing arguments. I thought that was weird that they just, fuck it, we're done.
Yeah, it was a street fight. I mean, because the president wanted to bring this thing into the street. He's like, man, I'm over here, man, on Continental Avenue, man, and I'm here in Queens, and I'm getting down with me and my boys, Packy and freaking Soto, and and Jackie, and we're getting live. We're going at it on the corner. That's where they are, Continental Avenue in Queens, man. They're over there. They're battling out in the streets, man. That's what they are. It's the street fight.
I never understood how this person was talking about people being owned by the far left when he's definitely pandering to the far right while he's trying to call people far left. Like
clear hypocrisy. You can look at it clearly hypocritical. I mean, it's clear hypocrisy. So I said he didn't do well. You gotta, to me, any smart president who's smart, their game, just like when Romney went against Obama in his last one, and Romney was supposed to be far right. First thing he did, man, as soon as all of the primary stuff was over, he got to the general election. He tried to run to the center as fast as possible, and Obama and them were right to try to keep painting him in there on the far right, even though Romney was not a far right guy. They were right to keep him there. You got to run to the middle in the president. You got to run to the middle. That's because the country is fundamentally centrist, and I see this guy moving against that. He's moving countercurrent to this, and very strange, very, very strange. You got to run to the middle. I don't see this man doing that. He's counting on the far left and the extreme left to do it, and would not denounce the far left extremists. Wouldn't denounce them. The far right extremists. He wouldn't denounce them. Went after supposedly the far left. Didn't go after the far right. I was blaring tonight. I don't know. I don't understand how you could be a president for the people and take that position.
All right, man. I gotta get up off of here, man.
Yeah. Same here, man. That's it for all the questions. I was gonna have a panel later, man, but I've been up since like 4 o'clock this morning. So
tired, man.
All right. I want to thank everybody for coming through. I want to thank everybody for liking the video. As you can see, we had 2,044 playbacks on the video. That's why I left the things up, because like I told you, I get more views than YouTube actually says. So that's why I kept the analytics up, so that way I can keep them. Because it looked pretty stupid, like taking all the views away and saying only like 800 people watch, like they usually do on like my live streams about other shit. So,
How many people did we chat?
How many people in the chat? I think it was like 157 concurrent was like the highest one. That was at 10. Hold on. Oh shit, 172. That was at the height of the debate, though, at 10:10. So I want to thank everybody for coming through on the Man Tomorrow. This is the debate that happened tonight. This is not how presidential candidates are supposed to act during a debate. If you go to any debate acting like this, they will throw your ass off the stage. So I want to thank everybody for coming through. Thank you for the panelists, Mike and Nagone. And hopefully we can do this again on the next time it comes up. All right.
I just want to ask you one last thing. Do you really want to sit through another one of these debates? Man, I think after this is it, man. I don't need to see these guys go at it no more, man. I think I'm done.
Yeah. You know, I may want the Cliff Notes version. Going through, man. Man, this is painful to look at, man.
Oh my gosh. Oh boy.
This is some teapot level shit right here, man.
Yeah, this teapot, man. Where's my brother Xavier? Xavier asked them to put them on your debate show, man. That'll work. I swear for God, that did. So,
all right. I want to thank everybody for coming through, and y'all have a really nice night. Peace.